Yo, wagwan people. A beautiful Tuesday morning. Kama kawa, you know we're here to talk about vitu zinakuaffectigi nikiwa na mbogi yangu hapa. And today we want to talk a very relatively we want to talk about a relatively wicked situation. About relatives wale wanamuaga kwa maisha. They just want to be good people to you. And we want to find out why. Alright? Na niko na mbogi yangu hapa ya kunisaidia tufanye hiyo maneno. We start with you, Georgina.
What's up?
How are you?
Pretty sana.
How has the week been?
Niko salama. Been well. Nilipata homa tena. I think I have a problem. I honestly feel I have the worst immunity, but I'm fine. Mko safe. It's fine.
Kabisa. Hapo sawa. Bobby.
Matunda.
Mazi.
Itabidi tumetuma package.
Sindio?
Care package.
Mulai.
Yeah.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yes.
You need apples.
I swear.
Kuna fruits zingine lakini siwezi ongea juu yazo hapa.
Okay.
Lakini ndamsho.
Zile nilikupejea usiku ukikula.
Hizo.
Mama.
Hizo. They keep the doctor away as well. COVID kila kitu. At bay. Niko salama, niko very happy.
Wiki imekuaje?
Amazing. I feel very good.
True that.
Squeezy niko happy very consistently.
It's evident.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing.
I like it. And then msome blog yangu ndio muelewesha hata anasema nini.
Muolai. CJ,
how are you doing?
Niko salama kabisa.
Right.
How have you?
Good.
I was telling you 1 week away feels like 3 weeks away.
Bana.
Well, but you know, I told you as well. We're working more than Willie sees, and he's taking the paychecks. This is an abusive relationship. It's actually relatively wicked.
Ask him to send you a selfie right now. He looks baked. His eyes look baked.
Halali.
He's not sleeping.
Kijana halali.
Not easy. But pambana bazu.
We send our love.
Ndovu na pembe zake. Till the end. Amazing. So guys, there's a story I shared yesterday about a guy mwenye alikuwa na complain kuhusu vile alikuwa campus, shule ikakuwa ngumu, then he had to look for a place to stay. Alafu kuna uncle alimhouse, but the uncle was really treating him like a slave. And it got me thinking, this is not an isolated incident. You know, if you speak to 5 people, 3 out of 5 will give you a bad experience with relatives that they came from up country, they came to Nairobi, and the relatives decided to turn them into slaves. You know, not even help, like literally abusive. They will do all sorts of inhumane things to you. And these are people you're blood related with, you know? So I decided this is a conversation we should have because someone could be going through it now. Someone could be a perpetrator that is watching and also could be a victim that is watching. Sindio? Na mwingine pia mwenye ananidi kuheal out of it. So let's start with you, CJ.
Why did I?
You saw it coming.
Yeah.
Why do you think this happens? Why do you think family hurts you the most? When you're you see, where you believe family should come through in time of need, but it is actually the opposite, you know? So why do you think they do this?
There would be many factors, but I will start with probably one. Generally, most people struggle to get to where they are. So they believe that struggle is the pattern that they keep on prescribing to other people as well. If somebody maybe suffered so much to attain the little level that they have, they nearly begin to think that that suffering is what produced who they are. And so when they see the next person, they most probably would pass on the same pain, thinking that that is what made them. Sometimes they don't see it as circumstances that were just unfavorable. Now they begin to prescribe it more like a drug to the next person. And they would say, you know, we started without shoes. This is what made us. We slept without food. So they feel this is what is going to make this person. They forget that there's a difference between the experience and the lesson. And sometimes you can go through the experience and still not get the lessons from it. So some of those people who do that, they do that because they're very ignorant of how to help the next person. Of course, there are those who are also just outrightly evil because they feel you're coming into their space, you want to take what they have, they're doing you a favor, so they feel, you know, they've got to treat you in a certain way to remind you who the boss is. But again, all these things, Shatta, they come from our underlying insecurities. When we have come from so much of lack and depravity, not just financially or economically, even just emotionally, where you were never fed emotionally, you have your insecurities. When you get money, you actually want to load yourself as a boss on people, so you become emotionally abusive. If you never had money all your life, and then you come to the place you have money, again, sometimes that element of luck may swing you to another place where you think now you own the world. There are various factors that would make people treat their relatives like that.
True that. Bobby, ulisoma your story ukasema this is so sad.
Yeah.
Have you heard of such incidences where family just treats people bad?
Yes, even personal experiences. And I'm ashamed to say that I've actually been in such a situation where I didn't know how to handle better. Like I had a relative staying over. I was way younger and I didn't know much about mental health and things like that. And this relative was actually really going through it. So, you know, when you stay with someone and just like CJ said, like trauma, scarcity, all these things come into play. If you have never been taught how to love and you do not know how to love, you become the same person who does the same things to people. It's like trauma that just passes down. That's why you need to start being really aware and actively, like he said, there's people who are evil, but there's people who, they genuinely do not know better. They don't know how to handle a situation. They do not know how to treat people better. And I'm not excusing it or saying that it's okay. It's just that now that we have more information, we need to be more aware so that we know better. And it's really sad because now when I think about it, it's like, oh God, I was maybe rude to someone in some way that it was not intentional, but I was just tired. They were in my space, or they were bothering me, or they needed something and I did not want to give it in that time. And if you evaluate yourself and you start to see maybe how you've grown and how you've come along, you start to see that at some point when you didn't know better, that maybe you've treated some people unfairly, or maybe you've done it to someone else. So this is something that I'd say I grew up around very easily. I saw not just like in my home, even in, you know, stories unasikia nani anaishi na cousins wake wanamnyimanga food, ama au wakienda out yeye anaambiwa aende kwa room, ama au akikula pizza yeye anaambiwa aende achemshe mboga kienyeji iko kwa fridge, you know, things like that. And it didn't really seem as abuse. It was at some point, even when people are being abusive, they can find ways to justify it, like, you know, I only have enough for my kids. And that's a scarcity mindset where you're hoarding and keeping so that you have enough because you're scared itaisha. And people like this don't realize that it is in giving more and treating people better and just being a better person that you actually accumulate more. And if you hoard and be scarce and be mean and be just a horrible person, you stay in that scarcity mindset. So this is something that actually happens very often. Like you said, if you talk to your friends and your circle, you'll find out even 3 out of 5 people have had horrible experiences with relatives. And my mom tells me a lot that you need to make sure that you work really hard so that you're very independent. Because even your best auntie, even your best cousin, even your brother, choka, human beings choka. So you have to take care of yourself. And it's sad because I just feel like it's because we do not have the emotional maturity, the emotional intelligence. We do not know how to be better people. And unfortunately, that's how we live up to the point where you finally decide, I want to be a better person. Or you start to notice, oh, this is not right. But this is something that's very common. So many people go through this every day.
True that. You know, yesterday when I posted this, kuna mtu alirespond akaniambia, I'd rather go on the streets than go to a family member, to a relative. I'd rather live on the streets because I think the streets will treat me better, you know?
Yeah.
And, sorry, while growing up, mimi kwetu kulikuwa na cousins all the time, You know, we would visit, they would visit, and it was okay, you know. So I don't think this is a problem that has existed for like forever, you know, because since to grow up, we would visit our cousins who would stay, they would come, they would stay, and we would be okay, you know. What do you think has changed?
Personally, I feel like tolerance invaluably diminishes over time, especially when you're stuck with family members and you have to take in the good with the bad. And these are not like friends where we're constantly cutting off the bad ones, staying with the good ones. This is family, you know? You are there with them forever. So sometimes I feel like it's the tolerance that diminishes. Like I can't stand the things that I have constantly been, you know, having you go away with, you get. Over time, the bad sides just keep showing up consistently. So, and then feeling like you just don't have a choice, I think. You're disrespected, you're disregarded, like your opinions don't matter, but you still have to show up for family gatherings. You still have to show up for birthdays. You still have to show up for christenings. You just feel like you don't have a choice. So for me, I feel like the tolerance just diminishes over time. And you can't stand these people and whatever.
And whatever. Call them these people. CJ.
Yeah.
You see, when you are to visit your uncle, you know, this is your father's brother. You're feeling like, this is my dad. You know, while growing up, an uncle would act like your dad in some instances, you know. But you visit them, and they start treating their children different from you in front of your eyes. Unashamedly, they'd wake you up 3 a.m. to go fetch water and leave their children sleeping, you know. So what is it that they are showing their children also? How to treat you, how to relate with people around?
You know, the element of scarcity is huge in how we treat each other. And as I said, both in terms of physical or material resources and then emotional resource. When somebody treats you like that, the message is that you're an outsider. That's just a clear message. And they feel that they don't want to work for an outsider. See, I grew up, my mother never used to like for us to visit, but we used to host people in our house. She was the firstborn in her family, and most of her siblings lived with us, but she never wanted us to visit because she inculcated this idea that if you're going to visit somebody else, you need to carry something so that you're not a burden to them. So you see the considerations were mostly around resources, that you shouldn't go somewhere and then somebody begins to feel you're a burden. And generally, when in our setups, when people take up either the children of their relatives or they're hosting anybody, they're housing anybody from the village or somewhere, the first thing they're thinking about is the resources. They're thinking about their budget will go up. I have an extra mouth to feed. I'm going to take care of this person, and I'm working so hard. See, because of where we've come from, most of the people who live in this city didn't grow up in this city. So they're feeling like, I worked so hard to come from the village to come here. Now this person just wants to come. So that element of feeling like they have achieved and then they've got this little resource which they were actually working for themselves makes them look at anybody else they didn't plan for to be an outsider. Whether this person is a blood brother or sister or a cousin or a nephew or a niece, they begin to subconsciously, they think about this being an outsider. Now, what happens is that then as an outsider, you have to earn your place. You have to earn the food you eat, literally, because they feel like this was not, I was making money for me or for my children. So now that you have included yourself to this equation, you have to earn it and prove yourself. And that's why they will make these people work. And they will feel their children don't need to work because subconsciously they're thinking, I don't want my child to go through what I went through. But then this other person who has come in is an outsider. They have been excluded. So it's a whole mindset that needs to shift, that I'm not just working for my children. And then, you see, life is very interesting. Shatta, my maternal grandmother, when I go, and sometimes I'll go with the family, she says, who would have thought that it was going to be the family of my father's surname I shared, the surname Atemo. So he says, who would have thought it was going to be the Atemos who would be looking after me? Sometimes when we do these things to people, we imagine that only our children will do well in life. But sometimes that little person who has come into your house that you are turning into your shamba boy, you're turning into all this, could be the person who will actually in the future even help your own children.
Yeah.
The stone that the builder rejected.
That could be the person, you know. So I think that people need to have larger hearts. And if I went through pain to get to where I am, that's the more the reason why I shouldn't allow somebody else to go through that pain. If I am going to instill discipline and inculcate a culture of diligence, I should do it across board. That what I would not do to my child, then I shouldn't do to somebody else's child. In fact, the reason they come to stay with you is because probably they need help. They're from a point of disadvantage. So when you inflict greater pain, you're crushing that person.
That's true.
Yeah.
Kwanza mimi, you've mentioned your grandmother. Me, my experience with my grandmother.
You have
my grandmother alikuwa outright anautuonesha yani.
Yeah, even mine.
Not belong. Yeah, you see, jumba yetu vile imejengwa Ushago, our house is closest to hers, you know, and other cousins live far, like 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers away. Yeah. So we'd have mangoes, avocados growing outside our house, outside, not her house, our compound. And she would forbid us from touching those avocados, you know, and cousins would come from 20 kilometers to come pick those avocados. And see, our mom was very respectful. She was like, do what your grandmother has told you. We want to rebel, but she was like, no, don't do that. Go to the market, buy avocados, and not touch those ones.
Yeah.
You know? I was like, what is this? You are my grandmother. You're my father's mother.
Yeah.
You know, when my dad comes here, you're the first person he brings things to. If you get sick, we are the ones that take care of you, not those cousins that are far away.
Yeah.
But she never used to see that. You know? Actually, let's do this. Kama uko nyumbani and you have an experience with your relatives that you feel enyewe hapa, they did not do me good. Tutumie kwenye SMS. At least kwa SMS we will not show your identity. 22422. Andika hapo experience yako na relatives. Kama ni anko alikufanyia ile kitu, ama ni auntie, ama ni cousin tu, ama hata brother yako ama sister yako. Because huyu mwenye alikuwa na share jana aliniambia ni sister yake. Sister yake alivisit, alimove akuja kuishi na sister yake. Sister yake alimuonesha maneno na akamwambia yes, na akamwambia hiyo do ningeandika mboti ndo natumia on you, unaona. So imagine you're my brother or my sister and you're treating me like your help, you know.
Yeah.
How relatively wicked can that be?
It's because people think they're the only ones who have the opportunity ya kupenya na kudo better. They never think that, like, when you start being a better person and you start being kinder, you just realize that it's in giving and in sharing and in teaching that you accumulate more than you ever will when you're mean and a miser and selfish. So, ni kitu tu ya awareness, ni kitu yenye unafaa ulearn, ujiteach, of which all that is just social conditioning. And then right now also, I think capitalism inachangia sana this space that we're in, because you constantly have to make money to survive. When you make this little money, it doesn't allow you to have even socializing time. Kitambo Africans were very communal. We did everything together. Kwanza jana I was listening to some radio show and I had they had a festival ya Kihindi, and I started remembering how, like, Indians actually live. They have 9-day-long festivals and everyone comes, from the grandparents to the... Na sisi squeezy si venye tulikuanga na my cousins. We used to have sleepovers. I don't know if kids are doing that anymore, because right now there's a security issue. Unagopa mtoto wako atakuwa kidnapped. Anaweza kuwa abused, because, you know, family is the one that's doing all these things. You just have to be a bit more cautious. And then the part of making money, it's actually very, very difficult, that you feel like you just need to be able to take care of yourself and the people immediately happen. So it's difficult, but you see, when you live like that, it keeps you in the loop of scarcity. When you live thinking you don't have enough, so you can't give, or you don't have enough for yourself, so you can't share, it keeps you in that space. Una-realizingi, sele uko na 30 bob yako ya last, alafu ubaie msee mwingine ndizi ya mbao, ndio someone else will just send you 1,000 bob. You're like, what? Where did this come from? And it happens. If you start paying attention and being keen, the energy that you give out, it always comes back to you tenfold. So it's very unfortunate that, I know there's so many factors, like there's the scarcity, there's trauma, there's emotional immaturity, there's all these things, but we can't keep giving them as an excuse. We need to start learning better so that we can do better, so that we can teach other people better. Ndo kukuwe na some humanity. We need to, like Georgina said, to be a bit more tolerant of the people we love. Because you never know, mse mwenye una mistreat, life turns around and then they become the only people who can acquire you, and then what next? And it's not ati do because you expect back, or ati because watakuja kukusave. No, just do and see what the universe starts to do for you in return.
But you see, sisi tumegrow wazazi wakijua sisi we are an investment. You know, everyone around you knows you are an investment making. Whatever they actually, my thinking would be also, you know, we are cultured to believe that anything we are doing for you is we are investing in you. If you are investing in children, like our parents thought they were doing to us, so they need to reap the returns of the investments, you know. Yeah. So you're thinking, this stranger that has come here and I'm investing in, I will not have grounds to reap returns from this investment, you know. But what does this do to your, let's say if this is an uncle doing this or an aunt, what does it do now to the cousin relationship? Yeah. Because now, they have children that you need to relate with. Yeah. You know, what does that do to that?
First of all, when you talk about treating your children as investments, now we have an entire problem of a black tax. You know, true. Now that is now a resentment altogether. I have an example. For example, my... I know we've been hurt, but it's okay. So there's a time I should show you, because we come from a very big family, and there are days we used to stay in the same house. And like this is the main house, then my uncle, me, Ivo. So kila mtu kwa the same compound. So sometimes we would have breakfast in the main house. And my shosho is openly giving my cousins sausages. Sisi utapata ugali ya jana. Openly, as if this is the same table. Bro. And then she would now make it worse. For example, she would buy my brother uniform and leave me out. So you can imagine what is that creating between me and my brother. Yes. Like, okay, sasa nitaanza kuona my brother in a different light. Mbona anapendwa. And you know, when he gets the uniform, he's feeling some type of way. Like, hey, I got it, you did it, you know. Yes. It just causes, you're just deliberately causing a shift between children. You know, but it's unfortunate they don't see the future. Strika hakwangi wameona the bigger picture, what it will do, because my cousins and I don't talk. As in, I do not have a solid relationship with my family members at all, simply because of my grandmother. You know, favoritism ilikuwa tu in the open. Yeah, so I can't make an excuse for her. I can't sit here and say she's an evil person, but at the same time, I can't sit here and say that she did the right thing, you know? And I can't sit here and start imagining, is it because of the trauma that she went through herself, that now it's trickling down to us? It's not an excuse. Why can't you just be the better person, see that this is an entire generation of your own, change the script, change the narrative, because you have the power to do it. And it's unfortunate that hurt people, but also, surely, hurt people can heal.
That's
true. You actually can. You need to make a deliberate decision. You know what, Sawa? I've been hurt in very many areas of my life. But you know, I can't stay in the same loop. I can't be sobbing 24/7 saying how badly I was hurt. Get over it. Sawa. It takes time. But get over it so that the next generation doesn't go through the same thing. Yeah.
That's true. CJ. Took up for getting over it. But before you get to that,
it was a very emotional presentation.
very.
Straight from the heart.
Tumeambia watu waanze kutuma and we have started here.
Yeah.
CJ, you know, there are children that would see their parents doing these things and they are not okay with these things, but they can't speak out. You know, actually there's a child, maybe right now, that they see their dad treating a cousin in a bad way, but they can't speak out. They can't do anything about it. In such a situation, what do you think should happen?
Well, it's a difficult place, but I was going to actually raise that as well. Let me take you back a bit.
Okay.
Sometimes the treatment that people receive from their relatives is actually remotely controlled by people who are not within that space. For example, you may be living with your brother or your cousin, but then there is a parent who, like you said, saw that particular person as an investment. So you've gone to live with your brother who is now working, earning money, and then there is somebody who is expecting this money back in the village. Mm-hmm. So you become a reason why that money that would go to the village diminishes. Mm-hmm. So there will be some remote control.
That's my grandmother for you. She thought we were taking money from her son.
But that's your dad.
Money that her son should be giving
Oh
her.
my God.
And she felt we are taking money from her son. And that was a problem.
So you'll find that sometimes, you know, it could be an uncle telling your cousin, you know, not to take care of you well. These people, you know, their father, sometimes these things have gone on for generations. Maybe your father didn't treat his own brother well. Then this thing now is being passed down to the cousins. So the uncle will be telling your cousin, you know, when I was coming up, his own father, my own brother, treated me badly, so these people should not be coming into your house right now. There's a way people sometimes will fuel the grudges within a family to sort out their own scores. But if there is somebody who does not like how you're being treated, if they're old enough, they have the opportunity to make their own decisions, make their own choices. They can choose to relate with you as they want. And there are those who do that. There are people who will know that their parents don't like you or their siblings don't like you, but they will still treat you well because they have a good heart. Now, somebody like that should never allow themselves to be sucked into the grudges or the pain or the traumas of people, things they don't understand.
This your generation.
Yeah.
They should just treat you well. If they find that it is not very conducive in the house to treat you. See, I've now remembered a biblical story where there was a king with a son, and then a king was brought in from the wilderness, somewhere very further. This guy never imagined that this would take over the kingdom. This boy would take over the kingdom because he was raising his own son to take over the kingdom. And his own son fell in love with the guy who was supposed to take over this. So the father, it's the story of Saul and David and Jonathan. So there was King Saul, so that Roberta will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, thanks.
I can tell from her look.
Like, what we say? What we say?
So there was King Saul in Israel, and then he had a son, Jonathan. But then God had anointed David to become the king. And Jonathan, even though he saw that his father didn't like David, he didn't see anything evil that David had done. So he actually got into a pact with David and said, look, the one of us that will stay here should take care of the other's family. So if you get into the throne, just make sure you'll take care of my family. So the boy went against his father. And that's a very instructive lesson, that if you have no reason to hate or mistreat the other person, don't. You can still respect your parents and relate to them very separately from how you relate with your cousin, with your brother, with somebody else, because you have your own ability to make choices, to draw conclusions. You can check out whether the person is who they're being said to be. But again, sometimes people are not mistreated because of who they are. They're just mistreated because they came into this space and they look needy. So you'll be trying to make them, wash clothes till 10. They need to go to school. you don't feel that them going to school is important. You know, I've just said that, and then I thought about something. I lived with somebody at one point. These were people who were supposed to mentor me at some point. And so I was trying to pursue my dreams as well. I had things that I had going on. I was an adult already. I was out of campus, and I was an adult. And so the lady of the house had a sister, had a house girl as well. So one time, I was washing my stuff. I was used to doing that. Like, no matter where I've lived, I'll take care of my stuff. Like, I'd never throw them until lately, but I never. Yeah, because now they won't even allow me in the house, you know. Yeah. But so I would get out to wash my stuff. So one day, this lady of the house came in and she pulled down everything. It was a large house, pulled down everything, the curtains, the blinders, all that. It wasn't something that there was a conversation about. And I had a 10 o'clock appointment, an interview. I was going to look for a job, which I had told them about. But it is getting to 10, Shatter, and this person pulls everything. I didn't even mind the fact that I needed to wash those things, but she knew I had a job interview. Yeah. And the message she sent is, whatever you are trying to pursue does not matter. So she pulled all of these things to keep me there washing, just because I was living in her house then. So I did the washing. I was actually late. I did the washing, did everything. So I left them at the point of I had rinsed. So I talked to the house girl. I said, please dry up this for me. It brought an issue. I just needed the things to be dried. I said, I'd done the rinsing, done everything. I said, take these things and hang. It brought such an issue that I did what you normally talk about.
You steal.
I did because I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I wasn't trying to be insensitive. But I had a job interview.
Yes.
I mean, if I'm receiving you to be in my house or something, I must not want to stop your life just because you need me now. I should actually encourage you in the morning.
Yes.
Why don't you go out and look for a job? Why don't you go and do something? Is there something? I should be pushing you out of the house, not keeping you there to kill all your dreams and your life.
That's true. Sometimes, you know, sometimes when God wants to move you from one place to another, he makes the place you are in uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
That's for you to move, and you did.
Juu lazima kukuwe na incentive. Juu ungetokaje hapo?
Okay, lakini pia alikuwa na overdo. Angengoja siku nyingine yenye sio interview.
That needed to happen exactly the way it did. Yeah, for you to learn.
We are a result of situations and circumstances that we have gone through in life, you know.
But when you say that, Shatta, I also feel like there's a cycle of unresolved conflicts and resentment.
True.
You know, because you're going to do that to me. Maisha yandele, your kid is going to come into the picture. Unfortunately, sikusahau your story, or I'm not mature enough to let it go. I pass it down to her or him. It becomes a cycle. So if, for example, you and your brother, let's say there was some sibling rivalry caused by your parents or somebody else, then it is up for you to sit down and talk about it, you know? As in, put your tissues over here, cry tears of sorrow, cry, as in figure it out, so that by the time you're getting out of that room, as in everyone is in a good space. Now that's the way you cut off that cycle.
And it doesn't have to go to your kids.
And it doesn't now have to go to your kids.
You know, that brings a good point, because cousins inherit hate.
Yes, they do.
You know, we inherit, you see, my uncle and my dad are not talking to each other, so I will not talk to you. You know? Children are inheriting things they don't know. So if you are to sit down with them one day and ask them, why don't you talk to each other?
Hawajui.
Let's know that this family and this family never used to talk. It's like the Adidas brothers. Same situation. Their children never used to talk to each other because the dads were fighting. But finally, they solved the issue. They sat down and asked themselves, why do we fight each other? It's because our parents never used to talk to each other. But now, there is healing from it. You know, there has to be a process from healing from it. And how do you stand up to these people? Before you decide to step, you tell them that, I know what you're doing to me. I have seen what you're doing to me, and you know it's not right, but you're still doing it to me. You're my uncle, you're my aunt, you're my brother, you're my sister. Is there a point where you stand up to them and tell them these things?
The truth is, communication is very, very important, but also trying to reason with abusive people and narcissists, it's almost zero work. Ni wewe mwenye utakuwa hurt emotionally. But I feel like you need to gather courage to be able to communicate how you feel, but in the same time, you need to be working on yourself so that akikwambia toa hizo curtains kwa hiyo line usirudishe ndani ya nyumba alafu pack vitu zako uende, you know what you're about to do next. So life has to consistently be about improving yourselves yourself in the small ways that you can, so that mpaka hiyo part ya communication unaweza. And you see, there's so many abusive relationships going on. Even it could be with even your boss. They don't want to listen. They don't want to communicate. They don't want to improve things. They're set in ways that consistently abuse you. And this is because they're emotionally unavailable to the situation. Maybe this is someone who's tied to you because they pay you, you do your job, and you leave. But if, najua my mom really hates that nakuanga na kiherehere, and she's like, no, usitete watu nyamaza. But me, I'm someone who is very, I don't even normally care if I have a plan B or if I have, because I just have faith in myself that things always work out and I always make things happen. Because I've worked on myself. I've worked on my self-esteem. I've worked on my communication skills. I've worked on how I treat people. So it's very important. It starts taking away the fear for communicating and standing your ground and making decisions, like CJ was able to step. Like hata yo step in a taking so much confidence. Yeah, it takes, because ujui what next, but you have to move. It's uncomfortable, you have to move. So I'd say work on yourself so that you're able to distinguish if this is a situation that can be saved, if this is a space that you're able to communicate your emotions, if it even matters. If you're able to, that's the best thing you can do. Because sometimes, ni venye tu hauko aware. It's like, I always tell you guys, like my brother, he calls me out. He'll say, sikupenda venye uliniongelesha. Maybe I was just having a bad day or a bad mood or something, and I wasn't aware that I, shouted at him or said something he didn't like. So if you make me aware, it makes it easier for me to be able to recognize it the next time it happens, so I'm able to apologize. Some of these things, they're just conditioning. So it's not that everyone is evil, it's just that they're not aware enough for them to be able to say, oh, okay, Georgina, I treated you and your cousins like this. This is what I need to do better. It doesn't excuse anything, but it's better when you can see someone actively and deliberately trying to be good and a better person for themselves. So if you can communicate, if you can work on yourself to the point that communication is an option, that's the best. Let them know. And it's not like, ulinifanya hivi, uliniumiza, ulinifanya nioshe curtains, ulinyima sausages. It's not like that. It's teach them. Teach them with your actions. Teach them with your kindness. See, must, but that's how you teach other people to become better. Because if you're in a situation where you have to keep talking, it becomes like nagging. You're probably never going to get listened to, especially when you're dealing with abusive people and narcissists and people who are very unaware emotionally. So you can make that decision, but ultimately you have to be very self-aware so that you can work on yourself, so that you can teach the people around you. Speak up. Speak up if you can. If you can't, jipange, no step.
I'm thinking about something as well. Shut up. You see these cases that have been in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And when you had the government statement, they nearly sounded helpless. And that reminds us of most African families, that sometimes you may not have a conversation with the person directly, but then you call, either you're calling back home and saying, this is how I am being treated. What will they tell you? They'll say, vumilia too. You'll know you have nowhere to go. We have nothing over here, so just stay. So sometimes the community becomes enablers of this kind of a thing. And then the abuser will know you have no options.
Yes.
And the moment they know there are no options, they become empowered to abuse.
Yes.
I think it is important that people should stop this element of just bowing to the money. That if a kid, if my son one time or my daughter has money, she gets away with everything, just because she has money. And I feel that, as you said, she's an investment or he's an investment that now takes care of me. Parents also need to be financially free. And being free does not mean they have to be rich. It just means that you can't control me with your money, so that they remain parents. So if a child is, a son or a daughter is going astray, mistreating people, disrespecting people, you can still call them out without the fear of they won't send me something this month. Because some of those people know that their money keeps them getting away with everything, and nobody will talk to them. And so anybody that passes through their hands is told, whatever it is, just survive. You know, at least he's taken you in there. At least you have a place to sleep. But also now with the people who seek refuge with their relatives, I think it would be good to work with, even in your head, timelines. Just say, I would like to be here for 3 months as I look for something. Sometimes that overstaying is what brings the disrespect. Within the 3 to 5, 6 months, form networks. Get out there, get other people. You'd rather go and begin surviving with a peer than now staying with somebody who at some point, you know, your relationship will get affected with. So don't get comfortable. Get in, say, I'd like you to house me for about 3 months or something. Within that point, if there can be a conversation of empowerment, which is also a responsibility of the person housing you, if there can be a conversation around empowerment, it would be very good. Like within this period, how do I help you? What can you do? Even if it means you're going to start hawking from the streets. But then you depend on yourself. So it also places a burden on the one who is coming in. If you get very choosy about what you want to do, you have to stay in this house for too long. You need to remember why you came. You came to just get a passage into your next season of life. So whatever it takes to get there, if you've got to hawk, if you've got to roast maize on the street, get something from this place, maybe accommodation for a while, maybe a little capital. Be proactive as well. Bring in ideas. Let the person know that you've got dreams, that you're not just sitting there. You've got dreams. You're not just coming to consume. Get out. Come back with something. Buy milk. Do something that will make the person also understand that you've got a vision, you've got dreams. And then after a while, begin to work out how you're going to go out. Whatever it takes. Shutterboy, I have lived on the streets in this city. I have slept in buses. I have spent night in bars, not because I was going to drink. I have slept with watchmen around Pangani. I did that for a very long time, you know, because I needed to fight out over there. There were options of places to go to. See, when you talk about that, people think that's a motivational speakers.
Yeah, like, everyone has a story.
My chicken business.
But it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I talk about it a lot. The people who are around me, they know that. Because sometimes where you're going should be so compelling that you're not comfortable with where you are. And you can walk out even if you're being treated well. Now let's leave alone the abusers. Even if you're being treated well, always remember that you were on a journey. You're going somewhere, you're on transit. So you don't settle at your point of transit, your point of layover. If you were living with your sister, your brother, a cousin, whoever it is, an uncle, just take that as a layover and tell yourself, I'm working in the next 3 to 4, 5 months, then I get out of here. I begin to build myself. You'd rather go, like I had to do one time, move into a house, not knowing how I was going to pay that house somewhere in Zimmerman. And all I had was a bag, and my blanket was a towel. And I had 2 cushions. And I lay my head on a bag and then slept on 2 cushions and covered myself with a towel. And I didn't know how morning came. The peace in that
yeah, unmatched.
The peace in that place was amazing. It's some of the guys who lived around that plot had tried to go and get me a mattress. They knocked the door. I couldn't up until morning. That's when they say, we were trying to get your mattress. I mean, I blacked out because of that.
Yeah.
Always remember you're in transition so that you don't overstay in a place. You don't get too comfortable, even if you're being treated well.
Yeah.
What? Hey.
Amenigusa kila mahali. I needed to hear all that.
Yeah, we should continue that conversation. Na pia kuna feedback, but before we go to feedback, kuna watu wenye wamegrow hivyo, like they are used to being unwanted. You know, they see their cousins going to corners to talk about them, or their uncles and their aunts talking about them. And this thing has become part of them, that when they're in an office setting and they see colleagues talking, probably not even about them.
Yeah, you think
they're talking about you.
Yeah.
Start feeling unwanted, even in an office setup. You know? How do you heal from that?
I've been there, actually. I need to constantly remind myself there's nothing wrong with the core of my being. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the core of my being. And how you treat me is not a reflection of who I am. It's you. You know, those are some of the things. Of course, when she talks about self-awareness, you need to know the things that icks people about you, you know. You need to know you're good and you're bad. But if somebody just decides to, hana heshima towards you, treats you like crap, it's on you, bro. Like, you have your own issues, you deal with your own issues. So for me, I needed to learn like that. There's really nothing wrong with me. My mom has also gone through the same thing. She's gone through her entire life thinking there's a problem, thinking kuna shida na yeye, because of how she's been treated by her mother, who we came to find out is not her mother. Long story. Oh my God, podcast tunafungua leo. You know, but you go through life thinking there's a problem. Kumbe hata shida ikuwa wewe. It's because you were brought into the family, now you became somebody else's burden, and your mother decided to treat you like trash, you know. So it takes a lot of healing on your part to first love on yourself and understand there's absolutely nothing wrong. Hata kama ukupewa sausage, ukikula ugali ya jana, it's not you. It's that person who had the ability to treat you right, decided that they won't. Yes. It's hard, but you need to love on yourself first and foremost. Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Amazing. I hope there's someone watching. Ibrad, we take feedback ya watu wawili watatu. All right. Acha tusome wawili watatu tusikie pia wanasema aje. Au sio? Aya. Tuanzie hapa. People struggle to put food on their tables, but relatives assume you are rich, not knowing you have loans to pay. Someone thinks you owe them a good life. Okay, huo ni wa kwanza. No one would not want to live with a relative. It is the visiting relatives who outlive their welcome by behaving weirdly. They take control of the TV, they choose what to eat, they oversleep, they don't help in house chores, they stray into the estates and come back late in night, they bring their strange friends into your house. Can you tolerate this as the host?
This one has
Patrick,
this is personal.
Okay. My aunt alikuwa anatoa bed sheets kwa kitanda when we visited at we were dirty. I hate her to date. Well, I think hating her hits you more. Just forgive and forget. Forget her as well. What about us who took up responsibility to raise siblings and other family members? Then they turn around and stab you in the back. I'm yet to get over my own younger bro and sis who I literally raised kunidharau. I sacrificed so much. Inauma.
Touch the other side.
CJ have that one somewhere uta respond. My aunt mistreated me nikiwa nursery. Nilikuwa nimeenda kuishi kwake cause ilikuwa karibu na shule. Aki hadi choo ingechafuliwa. I had to wash before niende shule and I was 4 years. Naogopa kwenda kwa relative yoyote mpaka saa hii. I came to Nairobi and before I got my first salary, I got very sick. I reached out to my first cousin because she lived near where I was working. Aliniambia nienda nitafute watu wetu niwapatie mashida zangu. Ala, wewe sio mtu wao? Okay. I was divorced, came back home to stay with my mom, but she treats my kids like outsiders, especially now that I'm a single mother in the village. You are an eyesore. Please advise. All right. With me, my blood brother mistreated me. I could lack food for 3 weeks, but today I own a home in Mombasa City. Muo fire, big up unuse. Yeah, man. Mimi Shosh alikuwa na picha food akituona chini ya kiti. Imagine. Lakini kuzoa baba mdogo wakienda wanapewa food. My story right there. Hi. Hi, I was sent packing at 2 a.m. with my brother after visiting him during long holidays siku za kampo in 2012. Anyway, nilimsamee lakini siwezi sahau. All right. Kwetu tulikuwa na more than 60 kukus, but hatungekula until December. but my aunt and her children can eat as much as they want. Also, tukienda kwa shamba kulima, wanakaa nyumbani. Georgina is having a blast.
No, I'm laughing because I feel your pain. Okay, I feel like I'm the one who's writing this text.
Wewe tu yani umeandika ukaweka incognito.
Huwezi cheka. But when you heal and you're reading, it's just ridiculous.
When you look at it later on, you say, kupitia kumbe.
Nini sasa mtu anaficha chakula chini ya kiti?
My grandmother used to do that.
Alikuwa anafunga bedroom.
Alikuwa hata anafunga bedroom. Hata mwezi karibia kwake. Anaficha vitu, anawaekelea ziko, hata anaweza ficha kitu yake aseme mmeiba. Just to make you look bad. Anyway, we need to heal, guys. We need to heal. CJ, there are 3 texts that we need to respond to. Yeah. There is one that has said she's a divorcee. She lives with her mom back in the village, and her mom is mistreating her children. That was one. Kuna mwingine bado amesema ali raise brothers and sisters, siblings, na wakamgeuka. You know, hadi leo haamini kwa nini wanamdharau. That happens a lot actually with firstborns ama siblings wakubwa, that you sacrifice maybe your education, you go look for a job, unaget ndio provide yao wengine, but when they get it, when they make it, they forget you. You know, how would you advise in those 2 situations?
Let's start with the guy with the siblings. I think when I talked last, I nearly touched on that as well. That when people come in, there needs to be timelines. It's got to be very structured. If this person has cleared school, for example, how long are they supposed to stay around you? What are they doing while they're staying around? Because it is when these things are undefined that abuse comes in on either side. So if I know that I am hosting you before you go to college, we are very clear. You're here for this period. When you're going to college, we are done. Then we get to know what are my obligations before you go to college. How am I supposed to support you? Sometimes the support is just the accommodation for that point, and then money is coming from elsewhere. So he shouldn't hold it till now, because you know the thing with siblings is sometimes they also get very entitled. They feel their parents paid these fees for you, so somehow they are shareholders. They are part of the people who helped you become who you became in their mind. They feel they participated, so they get very entitled. Now, you need to help, but draw very healthy boundaries around them, where they get to know that as much as, and that is true even for parents, that as much as they may have participated in helping you become who you have become, you become for you first, not for other people. They have had their life, and if it is your siblings, they have their life. So define your relationships anytime. Define your help, define your interactions. That will help you from being abused. For the lady that the mother hates her children, I don't think she hates the children, but the children represent a burden. And so she's reacting to the situation. If these children were with their mother and they were in the city and they were doing well, I can tell you the truth, she'd love them. So it is what the children represent. She doesn't know how to get angry with her daughter, so she's projecting on the daughter's children. It's coming out. She doesn't know what to do because the daughter came back home. So it is a conversation this lady needs to have with the mom and say, look, I'm sorry, you may have gotten disappointed that we divorced and I came back here. I'm not intending to stay here. I can see that you're straining and you're doing stuff, and maybe you're feeling like I should have been helping you now, and I've come back, my children are a burden to you, but just give me a little bit of time. I want to work it out and get out. That is now triggering the conversation, where it's not even a confrontation, but she will have lifted the lead of this thing. The mother will either have to defend herself. Whatever the case, she will know that this lady knows that something is not right.
All right.
Yes.
That's a perfect place to end it right there. Well, this conversation cannot end. We have lifted the lead. Like just what Sijas has said, for the lady to do with the mom, we have done it for you. Sisi tumefungua conversation because from the feedback mmetupatia, bado mna need kuheal. Sawa. Anyway, tukiondokea, please social media handle.
Georgina Mbera, all social media handles.
All right.
Roberta Bobby kila mahali, and please check out my new podcast, my new blog. I posted something for you guys.
All right.
CJ Atemo everywhere.
More live. Na mimi kwanza mfollow Willis Raburu kila pahali. Na mkiona amepost picha macho zikiwa red, msifikiri nijichonyanya. Ni kudoza wados. Yes. All right. Shatter Boy Facebook, Shatter _boy Instagram, Shatter Tikitaka pale Twitter, Shatter Boy Steve Jacob Maunda pale YouTube. Just be a good person. The take home from this conversation, just be a good person. Unaona, being a good person is that if you are accommodating a relative, be good to them. And if you are the one being accommodated, be good to know that I will not stay here forever. You know? So basically, just be a decent human being. How sio? Situachie hapo. Na nyinyi muendeleze kwa mtandao. More life.